Hey, my name is AJ. On this episode of Life That Counts, John will be sitting down with Anthony Trucks to discuss how to make shift happen.
And that's a natural thing. People say, yeah, well, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I heard the first time I heard that was Pittsburgh Steelers, Coach Tomlin, when I was in practice there. And so what ended up happening was, we learned to do that in the NFL. It's like, in order to be successful here, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I, at the time, thought I knew what it meant. And it wasn't until years later I really got it. If you hear most people say it, their thought is, you got to get okay with discomfort. You got to get okay with, you got to learn to deal with it. Just find a way to just endure it, so to speak, right? Endure, comfortable, being uncomfortable. But if you really think about the word comfort, when I think about being comfortable tonight, Friday night, I'm going to be in my slippers, in my sweats. There's a warmth and a coziness to the thought of comfort. Comfortable, with my family, palpably, I can taste that, how cool it's going to be tonight. I just know, I sit on the couch on Fridays, we hang out, play games. When you can get to that level of comfort with discomfort, then you get successful.
This is a show for the driven, for the dreamers. This isn't for the make-believers.
I can walk all day long, but my walk has to become my must.
This is for the determined, the self-defined, for those ready to push fear aside, crush doubt, and unleash the hero from the inside out.
You are wonderfully made. You are beautifully fashioned. You are created with purpose.
This isn't just another podcast. It's about living a life that counts.
Anthony, it's great to be on with you.
You too, man.
How are you, man?
I'm great. I've got a buddy of mine years ago. He's like, man, I got Cadillac problems. I was like, wow, I like that. He says, I have problems. There's bumps in the road, but I got good shocks, so it feels smooth.
Right.
Oh, I like it. So I have Cadillac problems in life right now. I have some that pop up that are large, but at the end of the day, I got good shocks, man. So I'm good.
So the way I want to do this is, casual, structured conversation. I like to just talk and just kind of see where you are. And so I hear you say that. When you say Cadillac problems, is there anything specifically in your life that you can say right now, all right, this is a challenge. Here's my thought processes. Mm-hmm. Here's how I'm thinking through it. I think that would be beneficial.
I got a whole lot. So there's this few things that I will discuss openly. I'll share with you, and I know people are going to listen to this and hear this. So I have things I can deal with in the business, right? Because of my profile, I get weird messages and emails. So I got one a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure what happens. And I couple weeks last week. Someone trying to blackmail me because they found some pictures of my wife in her. They hacked her email inbox and found some pictures, found the connection, sent them to me. I'm going to post these if you don't give me $5,000 in Bitcoin. Craziness. And it's oh, that sucks, And then what do you do with that? Then I have in the middle of a lawsuit with my family member. That is something where one of these family members pretty much robbed the rest of the family of an inheritance, and then I've had to kind of lead the charge, and it sucks. Very, very close family member, so I'm leading the charge on this whole thing. It's difficult because then the family's pitted against each other, and I'm the one leading, so I'm the bad guy, in certain areas. You have stuff that has to do with business stuff, the problems, and I don't call them problems. I call them setbacks I wished for, I guess is the thing. It's not even a setback.
I hear that.
Every opportunity, every success creates a new set of problems. And so, in the business, things are going well, but it creates new sets of problems. And I have 4 different teams working on 4 separate areas that are all one streamline, but not all talking. So I'm the connection point. So that's one other weight of it all. Writing a book, which is a weight. I'm still dad. I'm still husband. And so all these things go on. And there's 2 things that I do very specifically to allow myself to navigate this well and be in a very still happy, joyous place. Because if I gave one of these problems to one person, one of them might shut them down. But I can handle those and then some, and I'll be good. And there's a reason. The first reason is a perspective that I have on wanting the next moments of my life always to be great. Always. And the only way I can determine the next moments of my life is how I handle the present moments of my life. And so I always have this purposeful, proactive perspective of how do I make sure that I do something now that makes the next moments better, not wallowing or stewing in frustration and dealing with headaches and how do I go to the next one? What do I want to think about, operate? How do I want to focus my energy? And so I always have a set point of, I want to go towards whatever that good thing is. And then the other thing for me is I find that most people don't do this, but action ends suffering. Whenever we have these moments where it's like, this just is heavy and it really
Yes.
sucks, my go-to is to tuck away and sit down and just, if I just sit back, it'll just all pass by and I don't got to deal with it right now. And I don't do anything. I don't feel like doing anything for a lot of the time. Like I just don't feel like it. And then we don't. And then the problem persists and it grows and it gets worse and it comes back later, much bigger. And so for
Yes.
me, I'm very big on, I must take an action to end this suffering and whatever level it might be. And the way that I do it is I'm very, very logical before I'm emotional when I approach things. So a lot of people, when emotions, high intelligence is low, they're not thinking, they're not processing, they're so
Right.
emotional. So I find things that distract me that could be bad or could be good. I don't lean into the problem with actions. And so what I do is I say logically, what must I do beyond a feeling? And so I have a very specific schedule that literally travels around my house with me all over the place of how I run my life. And I take time to take my brain from emotional space and say, what's got to get done? What problem is here? What has to be done here? What I have to fill in here? Preparation for this. And I drop it all in. And then I approach just the day, just that day or just that hour. I approach that with all the focus I can outside of the feeling. I just put the action into it and it ends that problem, that situation, that moment bypasses. So now what happens is when I wake up at the end of my day, or I say wake up, I focus on the previous part of my day in the end of my day. There's two types of people that show up there. One person is, man, I didn't get anything done. I feel like crap. Oh, and then it makes the next moment suck. Or the other person's like, I got it done. It sucked. I got it done though. Like I feel good. All right, let's keep going. Right. And a different perspective of how it flows. So I'm in no way devoid of problems. I think sometimes people think, oh, successful people, it's easy for them. No. We actually, I think, get more problems. It's just that we understand how to navigate them in the moments. They don't stack up. We get past them. And so what happens is we just understand how to have good shocks. How to handle those situations as they come.
You know, I'll tell you what I'm really impressed by just now. You painted a scenario, what's going on with an potential email scammer. I mean, a lawsuit within the family that would consume a lot of people's like entire years, right?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't be able. I mean, that's going to be a constant thing that they're coming to. It's on their thoughts. What if this happens? What if that happens? But this person did this and there and yeah, but and you get into all of that mess, right? But what I just observed, you outline those things, you frame them, and then you immediately went into, but I have a process for that, and I move past that, and I don't keep myself in that. What I want to ask you, Anthony, is celebrity, NFL, American Ninja Warrior, coaching, speaking, training, like, celeb on Instagram, different places, large following, and people may see you, they may listen to the videos that you do, the clips, they may have heard you speak at their conference at work or something like that. But then you outline, but I'm a real guy too, and I have problems just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to know. What was it for you that got you to a place to where, like, you just held up this, I'm a little jealous of your list, man, right? Like, you've got a highlighter on it, you've got notes in the margins, there's a well-laid plan. What I want to know, and it's not even of that particular tool, because we all use our tools that we have at our disposal or that we create or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But what got you to become the guy where, you know what? Yes, life happens 60 seconds a minute, but just because things happen, that doesn't mean I have to have knee-jerk reactions to everything around me. I can move intentional. What got you there?
Life, man. It's just life. I think the thing is we all are in the class of life, right? If you call like life a class, and then there's tests that pop up. And then we all want to pass the test with flying colors. But far too many people aren't paying attention in class, or they're leaving class. So you fail the test when they pop up. And so for me in my life, I always show up to the test, man. I don't run from stuff. I face it head on. And so you get more accustomed to it. I'm kind of like bathed in crazy at this point, where crazy is my normalcy. And the only thing, I'm not special. It's just that I stayed in the problems longer. And really at the end of the day, what you're asking is a question that is very, very definitive when it comes to people who are successful and unsuccessful. And it's emotional control. Like I have this concept I start with my clients when we start coaching. I go through what's called roots and fruits. I mean, it's like a tree. Like we are the tree. I look at us as human beings. We are like these trees that have amazing roots: faith, family, health, friends, and emotions. And if I have a good sense of faith, I have a good family that's rooted and strong, good friends, good health, and I have emotional control. It's a big piece of it. So, for example, when I got that email about this blackmail situation, it was 5 minutes before our podcast, and a person that's in a different right. It's very good timing if you think it's like, hey, great, and it sucked. Obviously, it's sarcastic, but the thing I look at is, okay, I want the next months of my life to be great. What's going to happen if I have this emotional situation control me? And so I find unsuccessful people will get in that podcast and say, hey, look, man, I got this situation going on. I'm in the middle of someone trying to blackmail me for something that's just super weird. Can I postpone this and push it to a later time? And the person at the other end is going to be like, oh, yeah, no problem. Like, they'd easily let you do it.
Right.
Like, no, hey, do your thing. Go ahead. Go take care of it. I understand families first. But then my thing is like, okay, what happens if I do that? What can I do right now? Like, what specifically am I, like, what's the action I would take besides just not being on there? I'd spend time stewing, talking to my wife. We'd freak out. Like, it's just super weird. So like, I'm going to take care of control my emotions. I take some deep breaths. And then once I've taken my deep breaths, I sit back and say, all right, how do I got to show up to this moment to make the next moments great? And not let this other thing deter me. It's the emotional control a lot of people don't have. So I went onto the podcast, had a great podcast. I breathed through it. I didn't even focus on it. It was kind of like a laughing joke in the beginning, like, hey man, 5 minutes ago, I got this weird email. And like, I just roll into it. At the end of the podcast, that problem's still there. It hasn't gone away, but hasn't gotten crazy worse. And over time, it pretty much disappeared. The person stopped emailing because I wasn't responding. There was no engagement. And that podcast I was on turned into somebody listening. And I've already got a call from that, which could be a potential client. Mm-hmm. So I could have very easily missed out on the client. I could have had a bad relationship with that person, all that kind of stuff, because one person had an email. What also bothers me is when things happen outside of me and it controls my emotion, they're controlling me through my emotion. And I don't want somebody controlling Anthony. Like, I want to be in control of Ant. So if you do something, say something, respond, create some comment, whatever it is, I'm not going to let what you've said affect my emotions so much that it stops me from being Anthony right now. And so I look at those moments in time and logically think, how will this emotion determine my decision? How will the decision determine my life? And if it's not going to be a good action, I just do whatever I choose to do in the right form of, I guess, action from that point.
All right. There is a lot to process there. I want to come back to a statement you made. You said that I'm a little crazy. I stay in the problem for a long time. Mm-hmm. What does that mean that you've stayed in the problem for? I think I know what it means.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
I'm a metaphor guy. Maybe it's the faith in me. So when I was a kid, I used to have little kittens in the house, and for some reason we were like mess with the cats. We would put these little socks on the kittens' heads, not to suffocate them or anything. It's like little socks. We were just little kids. Might have been like 7 or 8. Kids do dumb stuff. And what's interesting is the cats would just start running backwards. They'd run back up walls. They'd run out. Like if you put them on a cliff, right, He'd run off the cliff. Right. I was like, that's so weird. But the cat, if it just stopped for a second and just put its paws on a thing and lifted its head up, like it could be done with the problem.
Right.
And I find a lot of us, what happens is we get to those same confined spaces of life, the problems, and we try to back out of them quickly. And we'll back ourselves off cliffs or up walls or into moving traffic, right? And we're not looking. We're just like, I don't like this, and I back out. And so what I do is I put my head on this sock, I just fight to find a way to get my head up in it. And in doing so, I learn more because I haven't backed up. I'm able to face the problem head on. I learned the things I had to do to be strong enough and have the skill set to get this sock off my head, we'll call it. And so what happens is when I approach life's later problems, which life always presents more problems, it's inevitable. They get worse as we get better. It's weird, like the better I get at something, the worse the problems become. Right. But if I continue to keep showing up to life later on with less tools because I keep backing out, then I can't at some point overcome that problem I run into. And so when I say I stay in things longer, I stay in it long enough to learn the tool I'm supposed to learn, the skill set, the perspective, whatever it is. And then now that kind of problem becomes easy to me. And I can face the later problems with more tools. They're not as hard. And I just keep going. And in the coaching I do, it's identity work. My goal is to help people create this space where success becomes your second nature. And it's only your second nature when you've navigated so much that you don't even think about it. It just happens that you do this thing that solves this problem or avoids that problem in the first place. And so because I've stayed in long enough, part of who I am is the guy that handles problems. It's an identity of who I am. And it becomes an autopilot. It's like I achieve an autopilot in certain aspects because I'm not where someone else is wondering, should I back out? Should I walk away from this problem? It's like, oh no, I just do this to solve this. And I keep on going, but they're still back there. And that's the separation.
That's very interesting. So my youngest son lately, so we have this little dog, and you want to talk about an identity crisis. This dog has no idea who he is. and he lives in the house with us, and it's just an interesting dynamic. It's this little tiny, I forget what he is, dog, a Shih Tzu. He's a Shih Tzu.
Mm-hmm.
And my youngest son has been doing this thing where he'll throw a blanket or a towel over the Shih Tzu,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's been hypothesized that an animal's IQ is it's equivalent to how quickly they get themselves out of the towel or blanket being thrown over their head. So I literally see my little dog here, with the blanket on him, and he's just head up looking at, on a swivel. And but all of a sudden, like if you touch him, he'll start growling or he'll start barking, and he'll have this response that's not really a healthy response. It's not really an affirmative. He gets defensive. I want to hear you talk a little more, man, because this is intriguing to me. What are some of the things that you do, that you coach people in to control their emotional state when life can throw the metaphorical blanket or put the metaphorical sock over our head?
Yeah. The funny thing is I have a little Shih Tzu poodle. Same thing. His name's Toby.
All right. Yep.
Same exact. So you're telling me like, yeah, this is my dog. So it's a couple things. One is we operate on autopilot. We have this level of human beings. It's called homeostasis. There's a normalcy to who we are. And whenever you operate, you actually operate in a space where, this is interesting, since that has to do with neuroscience, is your brain, if someone says, who are you? You'll start talking, and it comes from a conscious part of your brain. But you'll start saying things like, I'm a dad, I'm a coach, I'm X, Y, and Z. And what's funny is you actually reside in a place called the default mode network. The DMN inside your brain. It's actually a collection of different sections of lobes and areas. What happens is that lights up when you're not thinking about who you are, you're just daydreaming, because you're actually going into who you are, how you think naturally, kind of like just floating. And it's like that kind of haze we go into, we're like just kind of lost. It fires up and it lights up. And so the interesting thing is I tell people, like, you, in fact, as I say, who are you? You are who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. That's when you are. And in those moments when I'm not thinking about who I am, is when emotions fire up, because the logic goes down, emotion picks up, and I just start reacting and acting. And I'm not thinking about it. I'm just doing these things. Oh, it's like fight or flight. It just happens, right? So fight or flight's kind of this thing that science, I don't know if you found a way to determine whether you can change it, switch it, whatever it is. But I found in my work, I can bathe you in these situations or force you to stay in them long enough once you've created them for yourself to learn how to naturally find a comfort within these different situations. If you think about it, fighters who fight all their life, they probably have, over time, they get a little bit more fight than flight. It's a natural tendency and reaction, because I was just consistently in that emotional space where I'm used to fighting. So if something pops out, like my first thing's a punch at you, as opposed to like, scream and run. Like, I'd be surprised if I saw Conor McGregor get scared and like run away like a sissy girl, like he's gonna hit you back. It's just a natural thing.
Right.
And so when you start asking about the emotion, one of the things that I look at is I help people architect their ideal identity. Now, I'm not going to go deep into all the segments, the frameworks of it all, but essentially you have this space where you can architect the ideal individual you want to be when you're not thinking about who you want to be. If I'm of integrity, if I'm a hard worker, if I show up and volunteer, I'm a fight or flight kind of person. Do I do these certain things naturally, as opposed to always having this contention? Because what you'll find is a separation between who we are and who we want to be. Like I call it an identity gap. The gap is when you look at the things that move the needle, that create the life you want to create. When you look at those things and you see overwhelm, you see difficulty, you'll find ways to steer clear of them. We'll procrastinate, we'll run into ways to make good excuses. But then you see the people who have that, they have like this Midas touch. Anything they touch turns to gold. It's super weird. Like, why do they always win? With less information and tools, they always seem to win. Well, they have a different kind of identity. And what happens to things that overwhelm you, that's a typical Friday afternoon. It's just what they do. And so the way they get there is because they've architected over time the structure of how they operate. And what we do is, like my schedule I have here, I just keep entering into moments of time. And here's where this actually becomes beautiful. I keep entering into moments that suck, that are difficult, and I just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And there's this amazing statement that I came up with that randomly popped out of my mouth, but it seems to carry weight for people, is what you create creates you. So when I create this physical body, strong, powerful, I create internally a strong, powerful confidence, right? If I am the person that creates this amazing sculpture, I create the internal identity of I'm a sculptor, right? If I create an amazing iPhone, right? I made the iPhone. Like, I'm a guy that makes the iPhone. No, you can't challenge me on that. That's just who I'll fight for that in the moments when it matters. So when fight or flight comes up, if somebody challenges you and let's say you've made this amazing body, let's say, hey, do you even lift, bro? Like, whoa, look at these guys. Hell yeah, I lift. You know what I mean? Like,
there it is.
That's the moment, right? And so it's that fight or flight. It's like, no, you can't challenge me on that. The only way you get to that moment where you'll fight in that emotional moment for who you see yourself to be is if you earned it in the past by what you've created physically. Not just internally, like, not just wishing I was better, but did I show up to the gym every single day and stay consistent? Did I eat the food, right? Did I answer the emails? Did I make the phone calls? Did I have the hard conversations? When I know it's been done in the background, when the moment pops up and I'm in an emotional space, if I know who I am because I've created this person over time, the fight or flight is irrelevant. I fight for that person right now because I just no way I'm gonna let all that work be for nothing.
Right.
And that's how people have to look at, okay, if I want to be that person later and I'm not there now, I'm going to have to go through the situations to get there. But the painful part for people, even if it's something you love to do, when you start doing it, you're always met with that internal pain of the realization that you suck at it. Like when I first started hitting the weights, I wasn't very strong, but I look at that guy like, man, I'm not very strong. And there's some people that'll leave the weight room. They don't come back stronger. They come back weaker, if anything. Life's the same way.
Well, that happens over time, though. It's just like in the weight room. It's just like any muscle that we grow, even the muscle of our mind. If we can stay persistent, if we can persevere, even those feelings of shame, those feelings of inadequacy, those feelings of I don't belong here changes because I've been here so long. For example, when I hear you say I've stayed in the problem, for me, that's time under tension.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I've subjected myself to time under tension. And what that time under tension does for me is exactly what you said. I create a strong, powerful body. And then that has become a reflection of what's inside of me. The physical is only a reflection of what's on the internal. So it's really interesting that you're getting on this. We just came out of a conversation with part of our team. And one of our younger guys on the team made a statement. I'm not going to quote the statement. It wasn't a healthy statement. It wasn't a helpful statement. And he made the statement about something that we had just heard from a sixth grade student. And everything inside of me attacked his statement because everything about his statement was just not what I've worked for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that fight or flight, just like if a blow's coming he's going to duck and he's going to counter and you're probably going to pay for it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So I'm curious real quick. You're familiar with Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Yeah. Are you familiar with his book, Outwitting the Devil?
I've heard of it. Haven't read it. I heard it's a great read though.
Anthony, dude, you gotta check out. So I finished Outwitting the Devil in about 4 trips to the gym. Yeah. You can do the audiobook. It's fantastic. I'll send you the link to it. When you're talking about this default screen that people get themselves in, Hill calls it hypnotic rhythm. He names it this place of who we are is who we are when we're not thinking about who we are. He defines that as hypnotic rhythm. Here's what I want to ask you. And this kind of goes back to my earlier question of when you framed a couple of issues that were going on in your life, and then you immediately, like there was nothing in you that lingered in that headspace. You moved on. And how do people wake up to that? I know like people like Tom Bilyeu calls it coming out of the matrix and this kind of thing, or taking the red pill or whatever. how do we do that, man? How do we help others see that, man, you're living in this false construct,
Yeah.
and your whole construct can be different.
Yeah, it's funny you said C. So the thing that I am, the football guy in me, right? So I think some of the things that were naturally, from a physical standpoint, inherently built into me happened through my years of like college and NFL football. Like that was the big piece. And so it's kind of a portion. But what you said is C is a big area. So when I started doing this work, I started working on the work. And most people want to go right to it. What do I got to do to fix this right now? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? And we start doing work. And then we don't realize this. I talk about it all the time is sometimes we'll start climbing a ladder, get to the top of the ladder and realize, oh, it was leaning against the wrong building. We just did we did the great effort, but it wasn't the right direction. We weren't focused, and focus without effort is wasted effort, right? Our effort without focus is wasted effort. And so what I started doing was I started a whole new segment of coaching that would preemptively go in front of any of the actual work, which was a C phase. So I have 3 phases called the shift schematic in the identity work I do. C, shift, sustain. The C phase is the most difficult, but the most important. If I don't see, I can't move. And there's a couple areas you have to see. One, you have to see, like, how were you stuck? First thing is, where am I? Like, very, very clear, where am I? And this is one most people don't want to do, because in doing so, it comes with a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain that comes with realizing the fact that you might be a cause of some things. And so people don't confront it, they don't face it. If you don't face it, you can't fix it. You don't fix it, you won't improve it anyway.
Right.
You just keep cycling back to the same thing. So what I do is I get to this point where I tell people that the reason most of us have an inability to be farther along is because we don't have our power. And by power, I mean a perspective of power, which means I can control something. So I was in a situation in the past where my wife had an affair, and we got a divorce, and for a lot of years it was all her fault. How could you? It's ridiculous. I was the best guy in the world. How could you hurt my family, break all this stuff for a lot of years? And I kept finding other relationships. I'd cycle back to some of the same situations. I couldn't make them last. I had these weird thoughts of I had no control. I was helpless. No matter what woman I'm with and how good I am, make it happen again. No power. And then when I got to a situation later on, I had this realization of, man, like I was a neglectful husband. I was at the gym from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. working. And this business I neglected her. I didn't give her anything she needed. She did what she did, not to hurt me, but to get what she needed that I wasn't providing for her. So I had this realization of, man, she made a crappy choice, but she didn't get to a place of having to make a choice by herself. And for me, I took my power back and realizing I could have avoided if I didn't help get us there, but that power came with a lot of pain. And so when people are trying to figure out what I got to see and why my efforts aren't coming to be fruitful, it's because you haven't quite taken back the power. And if you haven't come into confrontation with some pain, it's not the kind of power you need that'll move the needle. The stuff that'll actually change your life, the work you're supposed to do, will come with a realization that is hurting. It comes with a lot of hurt inside, like, dang, yeah, I messed up. And then once I see that, I can find, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm at. Now I got to figure out how I got there, which is a part of that. And then I got to figure out, okay, how do I get out of here? And some people, now they know these problems that exist and they don't always work on them. They just know they exist and they keep doing the same thing. I think why addicts, they continue to keep using. I know it's a problem. I don't want to fix it. It's just too hard. Once I figure out that I got to fix it, I'm willing to actually do the work to get out of here. The next thing is, in order to get somebody out of there, they got to see something hopeful to work towards. That's the next piece. Some people say, yeah, I could do the work, but what am I going to work that hard for? What's it going to turn into?
Right.
And I call it dreaming at full speed. Not enough people know how to dream at full speed. Like if you think about getting in a car.
Love that statement. Love that statement. I'm going to steal that statement. Go ahead.
Baby, run with it. I give them like a picture of, like, if you're in a nice, beautiful, brand new Ferrari and you're in this beautiful desert and you got, straight away and your heart's beating and like it's just, your engine's revved, foot to the floor, convertible blown. Like I got this excitement. The same thing happens when we have our dreams. Like, I want to do this and create this. And all of a sudden, if you were in that car and somebody put a speed bump, I got to slow down and then go over it. Or if I put a wall, I got to make a turn and go. I can't go fast anymore. And these speed bumps in our dreams come from us saying, oh, I'm going to create this and do this, but I don't have any money. What if no one supports me? What if I look funny? What if I, and all these different things pop in and we start putting speed bumps in our dreams. And so it kills it. And so for me in the beginning, I take a look at where you really at, how'd you get there, how to get out of there, where are you going to go? Now that I see, now's the time to start doing the work. For me, I do identity shift work to close those gaps, but like whatever work it is, now's when you can do the work, because now you'll be able to see where you're supposed to go and how you're going to get there.
You know what? You have to change your what if, right? You have to change your what if to not what if all that could go wrong. You have to change your what if to, hey, what if this actually works out? What if the finances and the resources actually come? I remember it was about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, a guy that I'd reached out to for some just professional business financial coaching. How do you lead a business, read financial statements, this kind of thing. He challenged me to put together a $500,000 budget. And Anthony, you got to understand, this is when it just wasn't. It's like a $500,000 budget, really. I mean, I know $500,000 may not sound like a lot of money, but at the time it was kind of like, I did it though. I dreamed out a $500,000 budget. Exactly 12 months later, I was doing it for real.
Nice.
And it equated to a little more than that. And so, there's something you said in there. I want to piggyback to, you made the statement of your power. And when that happened between you and your wife, ex-wife, you owned it. For you, is personal power also, does it equate ownership, or are those two different things?
It equates for me control. It is ownership for sure. But if we feel helpless in any aspect, we're not going to give time and energy into it. I think that's the problem. A lot of people, they feel helpless. Like, I feel like, man, I hear this all the time. I've done everything I can. I've worked as hard as I can. There's nothing else I can do. It's not even worth trying anymore, right? And what happens, you just gave power is this thing that I think we put, like women put in there, like, I got my personal power. So it feels like it's woo-woo and lofty. It's really not, though, because power is a sense of like thinking, do I have the power to change the outcome? That's it. And a lot of people don't believe they have the power to change the outcome because they feel like nothing they do is going to work. So I feel helpless. So I don't learn a solution. I don't put effort in it. I stop. And if I stop, I never succeed. And that's the problem. Too many people stop way too short. That's why they leave the problem. I stay longer in the problem because I have this perspective of, if I stay in this longer than anybody else and I learn something I'm supposed to learn, it's going to hurt. But what I create over time, maybe it's the creation of just skill sets and knowledge. It'll create a stronger me who has more confidence, who looks at problems with a different perspective, positive energy, and I do more. What you were talking about a moment ago, I can't remember where it tied into, but I have this concept I talk about stretching, like physically stretching. And for me, I'm always trying to be stretched in my life. Right. And stretch happens when I feel problems, like they happen, and I want them to happen in an odd way, because I look at athletes. I stretched as an athlete in the NFL because it gave me a longer, stronger muscle. I could go farther, faster for longer. That's just physically it. I could burst, I could create power for the entire game, right? And if I didn't stretch, what happens is my muscle is short. So if I get met with something that needs me to go fast, and I try to go fast, I pull a muscle. I'm on a sideline. I can't do anything for a couple of weeks, right? I'm on the sideline of the game. But if the game is your life, the same thing happens. However, the stretch isn't physical, it's emotional, it's mental, and it's all these things we're talking about. When I say stretch, you know what stretch means, like, oh, pain, right? Well, if I'm physically stretching and lean into it, it's like I can just, like, I got to hold it, like, 10, 9, my hammies are tight, 7, right? I keep going. And so what happens is I lean in. After a while, what was hard becomes easier. I got more length, more range, more power, and go stronger and longer. When in life, what a lot of people are doing is they're feeling that initial stretch. They're saying, I'm not doing this. And they walk away. And then when they try to go fast later, they pull a muscle. And that muscle being pulled is them failing at something. And they step back and they watch on the sideline for a little bit. I tuck away. I feel small. I have no power. Can't do anything. And then the opportunity passes me by. So for me, it's like I'm trying to, in my life, consistently find areas to stretch myself almost on purpose, because I'm mobile. I'm flexible. I can handle it, right? What I'm calling my shocks is just me having the length and the range to handle it. But when I started life out, I had tight muscles of life. I didn't know how to deal with this stuff. I just leaned into it longer. And the longer you stay in that, the longer you stay in the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And so if someone's listening right now saying, man, I sounds good, Ant, how do I do that? You just stay in it a little bit longer than feels comfortable. My coaches in college used to call it, say, play 1 inch out of control. 1 inch. Don't go crazy, because then you can't reel it back in. Play 1 inch out of control. So if it's like I get to the point of I I can't handle this situation. I'm gonna walk away. Stay in it for 5 more minutes. Like, stay focused on that thing. If you want to like get up, you get distracted because the TV's on. I just supposed to write this book, but I can't. Hey, 5 more minutes, man.
Yeah.
The next time, make it 10, then 15. Next, like, I'm the guy that sits down for an hour fully focused, and that's why you get more done. So the person was trying to get it done, and they didn't. They couldn't get the 15 minutes. Well, every day you got an hour more than them. And at the end of the year, you have 365 more hours than they got done. No wonder why you win.
That's very, very interesting. I know we're coming close to time here. I remember when I started lifting, and I have a question in here for you. And my question to just ponder for a second is, for you, is life is it a concentric, almost circular process of 1 inch out of control at a time? And I think back to a time in my life where, Anthony, I don't know if I've ever told you, I was really overweight. I was over 300 pounds. I wore size 54 in the waist. And I was an unhealthy father. I was an unhealthy husband. Spent way too much time at work and accomplished very, very little. Was very afraid to do anything that even pushed the envelope even a little bit. And when I got into the gym, I got into a rhythm of, I can accomplish, I can produce, I can, like my best squat was over 600 pounds. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was watching the NFL Combine. They had it on at the gym. And these guys were I think one guy, the guy that got the 225 for the most reps, there was a guy that got 225 for like 51 or 52. I just finished a set of 56. And I thought, well, maybe I need to drive over to Atlanta and talk to the Hawks. That's what I was thinking. But it's that, for me, it was just 10 reps begot 15 reps, begot 20 reps, begot 25, and on and on and on and on and on. Right? I'm just curious. I know we need to wrap it up, but I want to come back to that. Is life for you at any level, at any stage in the game, is life for you a circular process, concentric circles of 1 more inch out of control?
Yeah, I think I like the idea of concentric, consistent circles. I think there's areas where like we like comfort, right? And so we'll look at it this way: 1 inch out of control is a comfort zone thing. If you think about it, it's like, I'm going to play 1 inch out of my comfort zone. And it's always a statement of, like, people try to find ways to, to say, like, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I hear that statement all the time. The short answer for your question was yes. It's a yes. I try to be just 1 inch out of control. But to think about that adds for a lot of people a stress of, like, I always got to try to find a way to be uncomfortable. And that's a natural thing. People say, yeah, well, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I heard the first time I heard that was Pittsburgh Steelers, Coach Tomlin, when I was in practice there. And so what ended up happening was, we learned to do that in the NFL. It's like, in order to be successful here, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I, at the time, thought I knew what it meant. And it wasn't until years later I really got it. If you hear most people say it, their thought is, you got to get okay with discomfort. You got to get okay with, like, you got to learn to deal with it. Like, just find a way to just endure it, so to speak, right? Endure, comfortable, being uncomfortable. But if you really think about the word comfort, like, when I think about being comfortable tonight, Friday night, I'm going to be like in my slippers, in my sweats. Like, there's a warmth and a coziness to the thought of comfort. Comfortable, like, with my family, like palpably, I can taste that, how cool it's going to be tonight. I just know, like, I sit on the couch on Fridays, we hang out, play games. When you can get to that level of comfort with discomfort, then you get successful. And I think if somebody can who's listening now can grasp what I'm trying to say in these words, is like, I do play 1 inch out of control, but I love it. Like, I love hanging on the couch with my kids because I know what it creates. I know what it does. And so when you can learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable, you'll enjoy the 1 inch out of control, and your life will create some incredibly crazy things.
I would say that is the best definition of success I've ever heard. When you come to a place where your discomfort creates comfort.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best definitions for success. Anthony, dude, it is always a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time. I'm going to let you get after it. I know you've got that check sheet to keep going after, dude.
I got some things to do.
You got some things to do.
Schedule off. I got some writing to do before my next client. So, yeah.
Nice, man. That last statement was a whole nother conversation. We didn't even talk about life as a dad. We may have to do that next time.
Hey, we'll
All right,
pop on
dude.
again in the future.
I appreciate you, brother.
You too, bro.
Thank you for being you. Catch you later.
No problem. All right.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Life That Counts. Tune in next time for more insight with host John Williams.